Hello, Courtney here to talk to you today a little bit more about simple living and frugal minimalism and how living simply and being frugal and minimalist can improve your life greatly, especially in a down economy or in a recession. And so I have lived through multiple recessions and I have seen this happen many, many times. And I would first like to say to you to try to pull back from the worry because we will get through it. We have gotten through this so many times. I lived through the early 70s when I saw the price of things go up. I specifically remember the Piggly Wiggly that my grandmother and I would go to. There was a Coke machine and Cokes went from a quarter to 50 cents, and then it seemed like overnight they were $1. And I also remember in my mind thinking like, well, we don't need Coca-Cola. Like, you don't have to have that. It's not a necessity. But I remember like my grandmother would give me a quarter to get a Coke, and then, boy, that makes me sound really old. But what it has taught me over the years living through multiple recessions is that learning to be resourceful in down times helps you thrive and build wealth during the more economic prosperity or times of economic prosperity. So let's talk about some ways to do that, what you can do and how it will help you and how it will make you feel and how you'll benefit from it. The first one is how simple living can make you happier and increase your quality of life, and by employing frugal strategies and minimalist strategies. And that would be to focus on easier meals. So the truth is, I've been in lifestyle medicine for years now. I've worked in the health and fitness industry, and more recently I've retired from the medical field, working for a traditional cardiologist who also had, in addition, a lifestyle medicine program. And science shows us that people who live in third world countries where they live on what we would consider poor man's food, beans, rice, a little bit of fish sometimes, not a lot. They have a very low percentage of animal proteins. They eat more tubers like sweet potatoes and potatoes, and they have a lot more connection with their family. And a lot of the things I'm going to talk to you about here today are out of necessity. They don't sit around thinking about eating simple foods. That's just what's available and that's what's cheap. They tend to have better overall health, which reduces your chances of illness. It increases your chances of longevity, and you feel better, and your healthcare expenses are better. Some examples of that would be, for instance, last night, what did we have for dinner last night? We had cream of mushroom soup. I made it with coconut milk. And we had kale, steamed kale. And then my husband had a baked potato, and I made him some garlic bread. Then this morning for breakfast, I had a potato that I chopped up. I baked it yesterday, threw it in the air fryer, and a big bowl of cut up fruit with some walnuts, and I mixed some maple syrup and honey on top of that. These foods are definitely cheaper than meat and dairy. They have all of the nutrients you need. You can get plenty of protein from plants. There is we get protein from plants just like cows and horses. And I'm not trying to make anyone become vegan. I'm just trying to say the more whole food plant-based meals you eat, the healthier you're going to be, and they are cheaper in the long run. And if you focus on the easy ones, like making beans and rice meals, I'll tell you a great one is rice with black beans. You can get the canned ones, rinse them, throw in some mango, some lettuce, tomato, onion, whatever you want, and a squeeze of lime. That is the best meal. Some green onion. That's such a good salad and meal. The next one is to focus on non-material things. When we don't have money to spend on material things, we tend to focus on time. And this got me to thinking about, giving the gift books and making sure you follow through. But like, for instance, let's say that my daughter said, she didn't have any money, and she said to me, I'm going to come over and organize your closet or whatever, or this is for one free meal. Let's say that I didn't have a lot of money, but I cook a lot. So I said to my daughter, this is for one free meal. You call me and let me know one night when you're busy, and I'll drop a meal off at your house. Those create connection between people because it's something we can do for somebody else. It takes love and time and effort. instead of just throwing money at the problem or saying, this is for me going walking. I love to have a walking partner when I'm well and I'm able to. I love for people to go walking with me. And I would love it if my daughter gave me a book of coupons that said, this is for, one evening of walking around the park or something like that. So non-material, when we can't afford material items and we have to focus on time, it creates connection with other people. In this world of the economy of life, I can tell you what I have seen, and also being a yoga therapist, the philosophy of yin and yang is that what goes up must come down. There is an opposite reaction for every reaction. We know that from physics and from quantum mechanics, that, there's always light to dark, dark to light, hot and cold, right? Up and down. And in the economy, it works the same way. It expands and contracts. And right now, we're being forced to contract because we have been so consumer focused that we have created this situation where we were buying so much that it created a high demand, and it began to be hard to get everything that we wanted. And so the government, and this is a worldwide problem right now, I don't want to get into politics, these are just the factual parts. So the government is now raising our interest rates to shrink our ability to buy stuff because we are buying more than we can keep up with. And that raises the cost of everything, i.e. inflation. So we have to understand that sometimes these things are necessary and they force us to make changes that can be good for us. Think about disciplining a child. If a child is going to touch a hot stove, they don't know that that's bad for them. So we have to teach them that that's bad for them, and they may not like it. Or if they want to eat tons and tons of junk food, for them, they just want the sugar high, right? They want to eat the sweets. They want the taste. They don't know that it's bad for them. And so we have to enforce that on them. And sometimes the world nature, we are part of nature, forces upon us that we need to slow down. We don't need to have so much. We need to have just enough. There is a word, I can't pronounce it right. It's like logome, Logome. I'm probably murdering that. But it means just enough. Not in excess, but not denied. Just enough. Just the sweet spot. The Nordic countries are a little better than we are at this. So another thing is it forces us to be creative. So I'm sitting on a desk here that has been painted. I would lift this up. I'm also looking at a recycled poster that was in my parents' house. This is a desk that I got at a flea market. There was a little burn mark on it that's not even noticeable. I paid $75 for it. This little chair is recycled. It forces us to recycle, reuse, think about how we can get something out. This sweater is from a resale shop where I sold my clothes and got this sweater. It's one of my favorite sweaters. These boots I've had for 6 years. These pants I've had, for many, many years now. I don't need to go buy new clothes. I have clothes that I can wear. And I get really inspired, like looking at Pinterest and saying, I can make that outfit with something I have. I don't need to go buy anything new. So when we are creative, when we look at something and we're like, I can paint that, I can fix that, I can reuse that here, I can find a cheaper way to do that. Instead of going and buying something new, I can buy something used and feel that satisfaction. It gives to us a creative spark. It teaches us to be that we can accomplish what we need without spending. We can get what we want in a different way without throwing money at the problem, and that gives us a sense of pride. So the next one is simple habits. So you can probably tell if you watch me that I'm really hoarse. So I have rheumatoid arthritis and I'm in a bad flare. I'm starting to come out of it. But all of the medicine that they give me makes me very hoarse and sometimes raspy, and I sound a little out of breath and everything. So one thing I've been having to do is there's this book. It's like something about Change Your Life in 5. Forgive me for not knowing it, or I would attach it. but I heard about it from another lady with autoimmune. And it's basically this man teaches you how to have 5-minute snacks, health snacks. And when you have an autoimmune disease, this is super helpful. I have learned that I can't continue to exercise like I used to. I've been in health and fitness all my life. I am not the type of person with an autoimmune disease. More does not make me stronger, more makes me sick. So I've been doing these little health snacks because I'm already pretty fit and a person who's worked out her whole life. Lately, when I'm in a flare, that might be going and doing 5 minutes of yoga or 5 minutes of walking. I was able to do 10 and 10. I've been having to take more breaks. But a 5-minute health snack might just be getting up and drinking a glass of water, doing 5 minutes of meditation, 5 minutes of walking. When you're really, really sick, 5 minutes is all you can do. And if you apply this to your life in different areas, now I've done this for many years. I've talked about it before. Sorry, I have this one piece of hair that's driving me nuts. With my children, when we were little, we did the 10-minute cleanup. My ex-husband and I would set the timer for 10 minutes, and the kids might pick their toys up. We would turn on some fun music, and we would clean up the house a little bit. For me, it was just generally picking up. But that 10 minutes of everybody pitching in made such a difference. And we knew it was going to be over in 10 minutes when the timer went off. To this day, I use that even though it's just me and my husband. I don't enforce that on my husband at this point. But I will set the timer for 10 minutes and I'll clean the kitchen for 10 minutes, giving myself permission to stop. You would be surprised what you can get done in 5 or 10 minutes. You can basically clean your whole kitchen in 10 minutes where it's presentable, right? You're not going to clean your stove, but you can get your dishes loaded or unloaded, wipe your counters off. So habit snacks really help you be productive. And I started a little jar with beans in it where I put a bean in every time I do a habit snack that has to do with self-care. So walking, yoga, or meditation. And I drop a bean in there. And that shows me that I really am making progress. It adds up. So these habit snacks can be used in any area, whether it's sitting down to work for 30 minutes. Because I have an illness, I have to pace myself mentally and physically. So that might mean that I set the timer for an hour to work in the office. And then when that is up, I can go rest for an hour. I do this a lot and it's super helpful. And I feel productive when I do that. So even in the midst of illness, it helps me to feel like I am making progress. The next one is to focus on being resourceful. And we've talked about this a little bit, but just being resourceful builds a sense of pride. So for me, I used to, because of the way I grew up, I always felt like I needed a house full of groceries and toiletries to feel comfortable. But recently I have noticed, and I've noticed this throughout the years, but I've been implementing it more, that when we have less, there's less decision fatigue. And so if I kind of get to the end of the grocery cycle and I'm like, okay, well, we have split peas and we have bread and we have plant butter and garlic. Okay, well, we're going to have split pea soup and garlic bread. Or we have rice and beans. And the other day I had some tortillas. I had a bunch of spinach. The only vegetable I had was spinach. I had a can of corn, a can of black beans, some tortillas, and I had some cashews. So I put a couple of those ingredients in the search bar in Google, and it said spinach enchiladas. And I was like, I looked it up, and I was able to make a version of that with cashew cheese because I make cashew cheese a lot. So I keep cashews because it makes really good vegan cheese sauce. So I made these excellent spinach enchiladas. It not only was resourceful, it gave me a sense of pride. I felt so good about making this delicious meal with only a little bit, and it forces me to use up what I have. Again, getting dressed today, using what I have, that makes me feel resourceful. Other things, like I needed a pair of glasses to do this film, and I have reading glasses all over this house. But lately, I've had a little bit more trouble finding reading glasses. I leave them at work, or I've quit my job now, but I leave them at work. I leave them in the car, whatever. I leave them in my husband's car. And instead of going and buying more, I first take a little bit of time and look around and gather up how many I can find before I just buy more. So focusing on being resourceful, finding a way to get what you want. Another example I want to share with you. When I was a divorced single mama, my kids were, 13, 14, 15, and 18. And I didn't have a lot of money. And what I would do is I really wanted to encourage them to have closeness because I have 4 kids. And it was hard with with teenagers, they're coming and going. So I would save up a little bit of money every year. It might be like $1,200. And back then, $1,200 is more like $2,000 now. And so we would do things like maybe go to 4 hours away for 2 or 3 nights. I would get a hotel with a suite, 2 beds, and a fold-out bed, so that the boys could sleep in the living room and my daughter and I could sleep in the bedroom. I would and I'd get a pull-out bed, the rollaway. So I'd have 2 boys on the couch, 1 boy on the rollaway, and my daughter and I in the bedrooms. You could do this pretty easy. That was before there was Airbnb. And I would pay for a place that had like a pool, maybe a game room, and then we would go do free or cheap things. I made it a point to have a vacation with my children. It did not matter that we weren't going to Fiji or Disney World. It did not matter that we were going to the freaking safari in Gentry, Arkansas. It did not matter. What mattered is that we were making memories together. We might go, at the time I was eating meat, so we might go to like a upscale fast food or get pizza. We would do things that weren't really expensive, but that didn't matter. What mattered was the time. So now how I implement this, even though I have the money, is we take shorter trips. So instead of going someplace for a month, we'll do 10 days, we'll do 7 days. I actually have never done 10 days. What am I saying? That's a way to also be resourceful. The next one is find ways to save for the future. So future proofing is what it's called. So when you're in a down economy and you develop these habits, what happens is you start to future proof your future self. So I have developed these habits from living through multiple recessions, through living through hard times, through being raised by Depression era grandparents who taught me these things. And that has helped me become financially independent, and my husband. Technically, we could quit our jobs today and we would be able to live for the rest of our lives without ever working again. So do I want to do that because it would be tight? No. However, we are looking at that as a possibility sooner rather than later. Our learning to live and be satisfied, we still implement these things today. We do not take fancy vacations. We do not spend a ton on holidays. We do spend quite a bit, but there are 22 people in our immediate family, so even $50 a person is a lot. We'll spend more on our kids, less on our extended family, but we'll just do things that are frugal. Like tonight, for my birthday is tomorrow, we are going to the Living Nativity. It was $5 for a car to get in. We're going to go eat probably at Tacos for Life. That'll be about $30. Instead of going to a fancy restaurant where it's $100 to $300. Every year on my birthday, I get a pair of tennis shoes. We're going to go buy my tennis shoes. I won't spend more than probably $80 on a pair of tennis shoes, if that, anywhere from $50 to $80. Instead of $300 on a pair of tennis shoes or $200 on a pair of tennis shoes. I have limits to what I spend. And because I have put these limits on myself, even as my income has increased, our income has increased, it has allowed us to save a large part of our income so that we are future-proofed. And for us, we're sitting in that future right now, because now we had the money when I needed to quit my job because of my autoimmune disease. We had what they call Freedom Unlimited money, FU money, and it also sounds like the other thing, to be able to do that. So having this recession that we are going into is not always a bad thing. If you think about it as a way to learn, to be more resourceful, actually it can bring so much happiness and value to your life if you can also find the joy and the gratitude in the simple every day. Take time to watch more movies, read more books, go on hikes, develop cheap entertainment, cheap exercise. cheap meals, you will be so amazed at how much satisfaction that you can find doing this. Thank you so much for being here. Please like and subscribe and share if you found value, and I appreciate you so much. Bye-bye.